السلام عليكم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين لا إله إلا هو عليه توكلت وهو رب العرش العظيم وصلى اللهم على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين. All right, welcome dear friends. Inshallah, we will continue with the discussion on sincerity. And we discussed last time the fourth rule, which the author kind of made the case clear in terms of how we should help our brothers and sisters basically form a unity in terms of being happy and enjoying in the merit of our brothers and sisters rather than our own selves. So he says he likened it to one of the Sufi approaches where they say annihilation in the Prophet or annihilation in the Sheikh. And he said, although this concept is good, but then he clarified exactly what the his method in terms of how he sees that this is more human and organic in a way, that the human response should be in such a way that it should be experiential, right? Not just something imaginary. So he kind of made that clear distinction based on. And of course, he says one of the ways is to contemplate on that every human soul will face death, right? Right. So whatever you have, worldly things that you have accomplished here could be status or whatever values that you have attained. Basically, you're gonna leave them behind. No one can claim to take that. So that's an obvious fact. Right? That's why he says that if we do not support and sacrifice for our, like, that was interesting, right? The most sacrificing companion, the most appreciative comrade. This is like the true friendship, like the noblest of brotherhood, according to how the author sees it. And that's the true sincerity that we need to be. Right. So he says, otherwise, if we are weak in that sincerity, then we are supporting the forces of irreligion in a way, right? Unknowingly or knowingly. So it is something sensitive and subtle in a way that we need to, once in our interactions, we know some that are we serving in terms of the what our creator has set up, has made us to be in terms of how we are supposed to serve or whatever we are, what our purpose in life is, basically, in a way. And of course, we are given, I mean, that goes into our understanding of if we are, that we understand that we are travelers in this world, that we are here for some time, basically, for the purpose that we need to fulfill, right? That which is the preparation for the next life. Although we, of course, nobody's saying that you don't have to have a shelter or don't eat food, but within that means you know that with behind your mindset is still there that you are setting up your stage for that you will face death and then this is not the life for that we have. All right, so we'll continue with the second means, right? So the first was like the contemplation of death. And the second means basically it says by attaining a sense of the divine presence through the strength of certain affirmative belief and through the lights proceeding from reflective thought on creatures, which leads to knowledge of the Maker. So let me read that again. By attaining a sense of the divine presence. So we kind of started breaking down this, the sense of the divine presence, which is achieved through the strength of certain affirmative belief, and through the lights proceeding from reflective thought on creatures, which leads to knowledge of the Maker. By thinking that the compassionate Creator is all present and seeing, and by not seeking the attention of any other than He. So, not seeking the attention of any other than He, and realizing that looking to others in His presence or seeking help from them is contrary to right conduct in His presence. One may be saved from such hypocrisy and gain sincerity. However, this comprises many degrees and stages. Whichever degree a person reaches, he will profit to that extent. There are numerous truths in the risale-i that will save a person from hypocrisy and gain him sincerity. So, referring him to those, we cut short the discussion here. So, on the very many things that destroy sincerity and drive one to hypocrisy, we shall briefly explain two or three. All right, so before we move on to the two or three examples that he gives, right? So this is basically using our right, the way we experience life in this world, and through the signs that we see in creation, if we wonder about them, if they make us question, right? So we can sense that, yes, something behind the scenes is bringing these things into existence, right? They can't just happen to be existing by themselves randomly or just out of the blue coming out. Right? So this is like real experiential way of coming to the realization that there's some being behind it. So the divine presence is felt, right? And by thinking that the compassionate creator, so everything that is existing is purposeful, is meaningful, is out of mercy, compassion. I mean, it's all for me to realize, basically, right? It's not like something to hurt me. So this is like the whole way the Risale and this whole author kind of shares the message of the Quran in a way that, everything that is created basically is not there to hurt you. And then, of course, this was interesting, not seeking the attention of any other than the Lord of the universe. So not any worldly attention seeking, you know, or looking to others, basically, and seeking help from them. I mean, not realizing who is employing them, right? Eating the fruit from the tree and thanking the tree versus, realizing the tree and the fruit are created by him in a way. A simple example. All right, so let's go to the first. Rivalry towards material advantages slowly destroys sincerity. It is also detrimental to the results of our service. So too it causes the material benefits to be lost. This nation has always nurtured respect for those who work for reality and the hereafter, and has assisted them with the intention of actively sharing in their genuine sincerity and in the work they carry out devotedly. It has always showed respect by assisting them with material benefits like alms and gifts to save them from preoccupation with securing their material needs and wasting their time. But such assistance and benefit may not be sought, it is given. It may not even be sought through the tongue of disposition. by inwardly desiring it or awaiting it. It should rather be given unexpectedly, otherwise, sincerity will be harmed. It would otherwise bring a person close to the prohibition stated by the verse, nor sell my signs for a small price. Quran section 2, verse 41, and some other verses as well, and in part destroys the action. The evil commanding soul selfishly excites a feeling of rivalry towards a true brother and companion in that particular service by first desiring and expecting such a material benefit. Yeah, so selfishly excites so the evil commanding soul selfishly excites a feeling of rivalry towards a true brother and companion in that particular service by first desiring and expecting such a material benefit, then not allowing it to go to someone else. Sincerity is damaged and the sacredness of the service is lost, and the person becomes disagreeable in the eyes of the people of reality. He also loses the material benefit. This subject needs much discussion, but I shall curtail it and only mention two examples which will strengthen sincerity and true union between my true brothers. All right, so before we go there, let's look at the verse. Let's expand this a little bit. Right, so أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وآمنوا بما أنزلت مصدقا لما معكم ولا تكونوا أول كافر به ولا تشتروا تشتروا بآياتي ثمانا قليلا وإياي فاتقون. And translation, believe in that which I have now bestowed from on high, confirming the truth already in your possession, and be not foremost among those who deny its truth. And do not barter away my messages for a trifling gain, and of me be conscious. Right. My revelations for a trifling price, trifling gain, for a small price, right? For a fleeting gain, for a trivial gain, paltry price. I mean, who's speaking here, basically, right? The Lord of the universe saying something here. That the message that I have bestowed to you, which is a blessing, a mercy, gives me meaning in life. Otherwise, I'll be totally lost in life, right? For some worldly small gain, right? Don't just destroy your own selves, basically, in a way, right? So nor sell my signs for a small price, right? So losing oneself in material benefits at the expense of a brother or a sister, right? For the service of the Quran. Although I think the way he wrote it at that time, probably there were, I mean, I'm sure they do it still in some areas or some countries, and right, where they support a person's scholarships and fellowships. So these things are there. So one doesn't have to really struggle in life for the service that they're doing. But of course, we have to be wary about the evil commanding soul, right? So the desires and the certain feelings get aroused or some, to for some material benefit without thinking that it overrides maybe the conscience and the consciousness of the human being to go after that material benefit, right? And then lose the sincerity. So I think it's something that one needs to be careful about. All right, any comments or thoughts so far?
Assalamualaikum. It's interesting when if you go back a page, um, where he starts off the first. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
If you want to flip back the page. So he says rivalry towards material advantages is slowly destroys sincerity. It is also detrimental to the results of the service.
Yeah. I think
So too, it causes the material benefits to be lost. It's interesting. The thing that people are after, they eventually lose it anyway through rivalry and contention.
right.
So you think uh you're after something, but in the end, this sort of rivalry causes you to for you to lose it, for everyone to lose it. So um,
I,
that's
yeah, it's also interesting. He used the word slowly destroys, not so it's not like a something immediate, but
yeah, yeah,
over time, gradually, basically, it's a major destruction that happens.
correct, yeah.
Just like a disease, if you don't treat it, it gets worse
I
and
mean,
worse.
like you can think about it like um, in let's say like in a so let's say somebody's playing a sport, for example, they're on a team and one person is interested in their own sort of glory or recognition,
Yeah.
and then it causes the entire team harm and they lose the game. So potentially the same thing here, is um, he says such assistance and benefit may not be sought. It is given. So, in other words, like our aim should not be the material benefit in and of itself, but the actual goal of um uh you know the who work for reality and the hereafter. So in other words, when he previously mentions knowledge of the maker, that's what we're after. So, or connection to the creator and attainment of the hereafter. Um so um Yeah, so the benefits is not the thing in and of itself that one's after, but it's like a sign of compassion and mercy from the creator to assist them in their work. So, um, you know,
So if we have that understanding that it is given to do some work, basically.
correct. Yeah, it's given as an assistance and it's given unexpectedly, as he says. Otherwise, sincerity will be harmed. Otherwise, like, if we think about it like from the perspective of, oh, I'm gonna get it if I do this.
And I would own it forever.
Yeah. Well, also like it sort of you think of it then as a transaction then.
Yeah.
So, this work. Um, if somebody gave you if it was like a job and you're like, I do my work and I get a paycheck, then if you think about it, a lot of I mean, a job is probably one of the things that where people lose sincerity in the thing they're doing, actually. So,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know, they become more interested in the paycheck than the thing itself. So it's interesting in that regard. But he says, nor sell my signs for a small price. And because you mentioned the verse, um, it's interesting the verse, small price. In other words, like we think the thing has value, this material benefit, but I mean, when you zoom out in the grand scheme in relation to this relationship with the creator, the hereafter, it's really insignificant. So it's something. It's not the problem. Not saying it's nothing, but it's greatly insignificant in relation to other things. So why is our concern that? And if we are given, then we should just feel content and grateful to the Creator. So, um, yeah,
Interesting. Yeah.
yeah. So, and then he goes on the last paragraph of where we're talking about losing the material benefit because you want it, but you don't want someone else to have it. It's just yeah, lose. That's essentially loss of sincerity right there. That's not compatible with sincerity. Um,
It
um,
does say the subject needs much discussion, right?
yeah,
Because it's some we don't realize it many times in our lives, right? And what are we after really for many?
correct. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's
People are working, losing a lot of their energy, lives for just something that really is may not. I mean, you can be happy with, a certain amount, but just going overboard with many things is just not, is useless in a way.
hmm,
In reality, if one realizes that, right? So
yeah. So, yeah. I mean, it's an interesting thing to think about. It's very. You would think it's contradictory. It's strange, but it's true though. So,
it is strange because this is, I mean, like all the education system and everything that everyone promotes here, right? It's just to financial benefit or people who come here, right? So everybody has this idea that yes, we want to live our lives better, and that's it. You
yeah,
know,
correct. Yeah, and in
nobody
some
goes to
ways,
work, right? Just say, hey, I want to help people as a doctor or an engineer or whatever, right? Or teacher, but you expect something basically, at least something that you can live in a life basically in this world, the way the system is set up in a way, right? So
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's why, like, I mean, I understand practical reasoning, but like, I mean, Nursing is essentially saying that it's best not to try, like, the idea that people think they can make money off religion, Islam, that's problematic. And it, like, I know that it does destroy because just, personal experience of seeing with people who turn into a profession, it does destroy sincerity, it causes rivalry,
right, right,
you know? So, when your objective becomes money itself. So,
correct.
yeah, it's sad, but that's what happens. And it affects not only that person, it affects everyone then, you know, the loss of unity and common goal and collective, it affects everyone. So,
Correct. At some point, you'll be like fed up with the thing itself, right? You're like, okay, I have this now. What now? I mean, the meaning is if there's no meaning behind it,
correct, yeah.
what good is it to have all this wealth and then not, getting old and then dying at the end?
Yeah, I mean, it's,
A lot of people say, no, I'll give it to my kids if I have this amount, right? I was just having a conversation yesterday. Like, you know, they said, yeah, my kids will have it. I mean, all of the kids are also making a lot of money, so still, what are you doing?
yeah, yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, as he says, the aim, people of reality aim is the hereafter, not per se attainment of this world. So, in that way, you preserve sincerity. So, but at least those are my thoughts. But it's interesting. It's interesting verse. Thamanan qalila. It's like often, as he says, etc. It's repeated many times in the Quran. So,
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Thank you. Yeah. And so let's go over the first example. So the worldly, which is in quotes, and even certain politicians and secret societies and manipulators of society have adopted as their guiding principle that of shared property in order to procure wealth and power. They do acquire an extraordinary strength and advantage despite all their exploitation and losses. However, the nature of common property does not change with sharing despite its many harms. Although each partner is as though the owner and supervisor of the rest in one respect, he is unable to profit from it. Nevertheless, if the principles of shared property is applied to the works of the hereafter, it accumulates vast benefits and produces no loss. For it means that all the property passes to the hands of each partner. For example, there are 4 or 5 men with the idea of sharing. One of them brings paraffin, another a wick, another the lamp, another the mantle, and the fifth matches. They assemble the lamp and light it. Each of them becomes the owner of a complete lamp. If each of those partners has a full-length mirror or on a wall, he will be reflected in it together with the lamp and room, without deficiency or being split up. Just the same, our mutual participation in the goods of the hereafter, through the mystery of sincerity and cooperation, through the mystery of brotherhood, and joint enterprise through the mystery of unity. The total obtained by those joint acts and all the lights enters the book of good deeds of each person taking part. This is a fact and has been witnessed by the people of reality. It is required also by the breadth of divine mercy and beneficence. My brothers, God willing, material benefits will not provoke rivalry among you. You may possibly be deceived in regard to the benefits of the hereafter, like some of those who follow the Sufi path. You may possibly be deceived in regard to the benefits of the hereafter, like some of those who follow the Sufi path, but how can some personal minor merit be compared with the merit and light manifested in respect of the shared actions mentioned in the above example? So personal minor merit be compared with the merit and light manifested in respect of the shared actions mentioned in the above example. Yeah, basically, yeah, the conclusion is interesting how he gives the example of everybody bringing a part of the lamp or right to make a lamp, and then everybody has a share in it. Although, and he starts basically to the worldly and even certain basically they have certain criteria in terms of when they set up all these shared property, right? So usually they say, yeah, I kind of work. I mean, you have to say that basically to be elected, right? Anywhere that I did all this and all this for you guys, right? So I deserve to be elected in a way. But I don't know where I don't understand where the author is going with this in the first paragraph. Maybe if you have some comments on it, right? Each partner is as though the owner, but then he says, nevertheless, the principle of share price apply to the works of the hereafter. So the same principle, if it's not just for the temporary life of this world, right? He says if it is applied to the works of the hereafter. So I think that's the distinction the author kind of makes here. And then shared property, so everyone contributes according to what they can offer in a way, right? So that's where the unity and brotherhood kind of comes in. So there are many like mutual participation things, but they don't have that aspect of the hereafter in them. So I think this is a distinction that the author makes in this example. And then when he says that benefits of the hereafter is not imaginary, like the Sufi path may have it, some of them. But he said this is like through the sincerity, it will be a real experience that you see that, yes, this is all presented to me by the mercy of my creator, whatever I'm taking part in. I know that this I am a created being, I am in need of my Lord, and this is just the means through which, I will I have to die at one point, and then, yeah, so all this is basically for the purpose of my life here that I'm given as a gift. Yeah, so this is all like I think something that human beings need to work on in a way that everything that we are given is a gift. No one can claim that I own my life, I own my body, I own my feelings, right? So they're all given to us. Any comments on this first example?
Yeah, I was gonna go back to the first paragraph. He contrasts the worldly with the people of the hereafter. You know, the worldly, he says, politicians, societies, manipulators of society. He says they have adopted the principle of shared property in order to procure that which is worldly, wealth and power. So they get worldly things from a strength and advantage, despite all their exploitation and losses. I think what he means, I'm not 100% sure, but I think what he means by that is because their view of the world is this world itself, so worldly material, they have to expend a lot, exploit a lot of other people, of individuals, of the earth, and so they may incur losses. They may have to expend a lot to have this shared property. Um, but they get some sort of extraordinary strength and advantage. Um, he says the nature of common power does not change with sharing, meaning everybody benefits from it despite its many harms. I think maybe he's saying the shared property that these worldly engage in, there's many harms to it. Although each partner is as though the owner and supervisor of the rest in one respect, he is unable to profit from it. I think meaning because it's shared, he cannot take it for themselves. Um, so I think like maybe a practical example of shared property is like, let's say politicians, secret societies, manipulators, let's say weaponry, for example, war weaponry. It's shared property in a sense.
I was
Um,
thinking like roads maybe that's shared, for us to use. No?
yeah, I guess, yeah, anything that's like material infrastructure, so like weapons, roads, buildings, things like this, all infrastructure. Um, uh, you know, let's say the building of roads, people are exploited. Let's say people are used as labor to build these roads. Um, that maybe the government's going to use because, roads were used to transport like weaponry, military, things like that. Um, or to, invade other countries or things like that. Um,
Yeah,
so
it does say manipulators of society, secret societies.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, a lot of these things have worldly angles to it, even building of roads, actually.
Yeah.
So if you were to study like the history of like a lot of these things, so there's an expenditure, human expenditure, financial, maybe even taking advantage of people by doing this, um, becomes a common property that they, procure wealth and power, um, even if there's any harms in it. Um, but the thing in and of themselves, they're not able to take complete ownership of it because everybody's the owner. I think he's trying to draw an example there and trying to use that as a way in which the people of the hereafter should think about their work. So
Yeah.
he's not saying like be like the worldly in the sense of you should do like these things to exploit, but he's saying look at how the worldly use the world, um, and they have joint ownership. Now they use it for the wrong reasons, the many harms, as he says. They use it for the wrong reasons, but look at the principle, universal principle. That's what he's saying. The benefit of joint or collective work. So,
Right. Yeah. So
which he
right.
kind of talks about in other past parts of this flash in the 20th flash about, collective unity, sincerity. So yeah.
So yeah, you can adopt those principles for the wrong reasons, right? When
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's what, so you're saying you can use those same principles for the wrong reasons or the right reasons. So
right.
the people of the reality, people of the hereafter, adopt it for the right reasons. Look at then he gives the example of like, I'm not sure what a paraffin is. I have to look that up.
Yeah, I don't know also. I mean, but I
Paraffin.
can imagine for the lamp or something, right?
Oh, it's wax. So yeah, so somebody brings wax, somebody brings a wick, somebody brings the lamp, the mantle, matches, and everybody benefits from the light of the lamp. And then if there's a mirror, everybody takes a share in it without
Right.
diminishing someone else's, they can see everything. So, um, it's cooperation to the mystery of brotherhood. I mean, it's very interesting because as he's saying, and he's alluded to, there's no material reason how everyone gets benefit. It doesn't even make sense, actually, when you think about it. From a materialist perspective, how does one thing benefit many people? It's very strange. And through unity and
The goods of the
cooperation.
hereafter. What are the goods of the hereafter? Right.
Say it again.
He says in the goods of the hereafter, right? Through the
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, I'm saying in respect to like just this idea of mutual benefit and cooperation, there's a mystery because he gives that wick example and matches. Um, like the great mystery is look how this great mystery has immense benefit to everyone, this collective unity. And what about the good, he says the goods of the hereafter through the mystery of sincerity, mystery of brotherhood, you know. Because it's interesting, um, joint enterprise of the mystery of unity. I think because we don't realize like the effects of mutual participation, we sort of ignore it because it's a mystery. Like it's so unbelievable that we just think individualism is actually the right thing. You know, what I want, what I get from it, egocentric, self-centeredness.
right.
You know, um, so, but I think he's pointing out like the mystery of the unity, the mystery of brotherhood, the mystery of sincerity. Meaning it's from a divine source, these benefits, so what should be our a collective goal is connection to the creator, relationship to the creator, working for the hereafter, for the goods of the hereafter. And that can really happen by collective work, joint unity, sincerity, mutual cooperation, brotherhood.
Hmm.
Each person takes part.
Yeah.
Um, And so he says this has been witnessed by the people of reality. It is required also by the breath of divine mercy and beneficence. And I think that's what he means by like also mystery. There's a divine will behind it.
Right. So
So
in this union cooperation, like doing things for the,
yeah, yeah,
the
like how one people together, group people together, brings about numerous benefits. That shows you there's a divine
right. So
will.
something we
This
can't
can,
really fathom basically, but there is,
yeah.
you know, in this unity. I mean, there's strength definitely in unity, right? So
Yeah. And so like it's almost like a divine, as he says in previous ones, a divine command
yeah,
for unity. He says it is required also by the breath of divine mercy and beneficence. Like it is necessary. And
it's
if we
that.
stray from that, we lose his mercy or his beneficence, all these things. So
Whoever participates a little bit, enters the book of good deeds of each person taking part.
correct, yeah, yeah. We all benefit from the work of everyone else.
Correct.
Just
Yeah.
like one person brings matches, one person brings a wig, we all benefit from the work of everyone else. More than in what we individually did. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
So it's very strange. It doesn't really actually make sense, but like in from material perspective, so yeah.
Cool. Inshallah.
I think about actually, I don't know if you've ever done like It's kind of like a bear. It's nothing to this example. Like I always think of like uh um potlucks. Have you heard, you know what a potluck is?
Oh yeah, yeah, that came to my mind too.
Yeah, yeah. So I remember like growing up, like we used to go to the masjid for iftar for potluck and we would pray together.
There's still, yeah, we do that a lot here. Also,
Yeah.
even on campus, some people do it. Yeah.
Yeah. So one person brings food, everybody brings food, but then you have a whole meal out of it. It doesn't, when you think about it, it doesn't, even to this day, I still kind of find it fascinating because it doesn't actually make sense. Like there's no rational explanation for it, how 10 people bring together and you feel beyond full,
Exactly. Yeah,
you know?
that's the principle in action, basically. That
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
that's the mystery part.
that's the mystery part because there's not like a rational,
Yeah.
you can't rationalize it. It doesn't actually, you know, because you would think like, oh, 10 people coming together would diminish things, but they don't,
Right.
you know. So and it's like it's interesting, you know, maybe 10 people cooking can feed 50 people, but you could probably only feed yourself and maybe someone else by cooking. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It doesn't make sense. So yeah, that's the mystery.
Right.
But this shows you that there's a divine will behind, divine mercy and wisdom behind it. And that's the divine command is towards that joint cooperation.
Mhm. Should we go in the second example?
I think we can keep going. Yeah.
Yeah. So craftsmen are obtaining significant wealth by cooperating so as to profit more from the products of their crafts. Formerly, 10 manufacturers of sewing needles all worked on their own, and the fruit of their individual labor was 3 needles a day. Then, following the rule of joint enterprise, the 10 men united. One brought the iron, one lit the furnace, one pierced the needles, one placed them in the furnace, and another sharpened the points, and so on. Each was occupied with only part of the process of needle making. Since the work in which one man was employed was simple, he did not waste time, he acquired skill and performed the work with considerable speed. The manufacturers divided up the work performed in accordance with the rule of joint enterprise and the division of labor. They saw that instead of 3 needles a day for each man, it worked out at 300. This event was widely published among the craftsmen of the worldly in order to encourage them to pool their labor. Right? So all the corporations, enterprises know that you have to have teams and working with different like small tasks so that the result is you gain a lot of basically result output out of it. So manufacturing plants basically use this principle, right? The car manufacturers, the other manufacturers, whatever. So my brother, since union and accord in worldly matters and in dense materials yield such results and advantages, you can compare how vastly profitable it is for each to reflect in his own mirror, reflect in his own mirror through divine grace the light of all which is luminous and pertains to the hereafter. Wow. And does not need to be divided up and fragmented. And to gain the equivalent reward of all of them, this huge profit should not be lost through rivalry and insincerity. Yeah, I think this is a good example in terms of, I like this part about the comparison that he's doing with the worldly and the life and then what the hereafter pertains, like eternal life, right? Infinity in a way, which is bright, luminous, light of all, has purpose, meaning, not like just like everything is being destroyed in this life, basically, right? So you get people are getting old, nobody wants to, like everybody wants to live perfectly, have a good life. Nobody wants to lose their whatever it senses, their consciousness, their awareness, their intellect, right? So all the human qualities, but it degrades as you go further. So it's interesting that luminous and pertains to the hereafter, and then you basically there's no like everything is infinite. You just ask for it. That's how the description of paradise is in the Quran. Any comments on this?
Yeah, it's interesting as you said. Uh, if as he says, like if something as worldly as division of labor, needle making, efficiency can produce such great benefit by division of labor and few people producing so much more than what one individually could, what does it say about the hereafter?
Right.
Um, mm, and I think like Nurse showing this is like a creative principle. This is a principle of creation. It's
Yeah.
fundamental. Unity, mutual cooperation. It's a fundamental principle. We don't see any lack of cooperation in the out there in the world. So
Mm.
why is it any different for human beings? You
Right.
know?
There's the
So
principle, mystery is in action, in motion.
correct, yeah.
Use it
It-
here in this world, but if you
yeah.
use it for another purpose for the hereafter, like you can imagine the benefits of it.
Yeah, exactly. People, you can use it for one of two things. You can use it for
Right.
the worldly things, or you can use it for attainment of the hereafter.
Right.
Um, Attainment for God's pleasure, as he says, which is attainment of the hereafter, union with the Creator.
Right.
So, um,
So this needs a lot of background, right? So you need to know like the whole section of this author's work about what it means to be like to attain the hereafter, because this would not make sense to anyone basically listening and say, "Oh, what do you mean? I don't get it. Are you sure there's going to be hereafter or because I get my worldly benefit right here, right?" So and
correct.
something, yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it has to there's a relation in terms of the understanding that there must be a hereafter. It must be so, right? I should be convinced in my heart, in my feelings, logically as well, and in my feelings that yeah, there must be a hereafter, so that whatever I'm doing is basically I know
Well,
that this will
you know
serve.
what's interesting though, even somebody who, let's say, denies or ignores the hereafter, they employ the same principle when they're after worldly matters.
Right,
So again, I would ask somebody who thinks that way, how is that even possible? As he says, this mystery. There's nothing within material world that says things have to be in cooperation. So it shows you that this principle is beyond the things themselves. It's from like a divine will, absolute will. Because how is it possible that you use the same principle to your own worldly benefit? What in creation necessitates that? What in the world necessitates that things have to be in mutual cooperation? But by the materialist perspective, things should actually be in rivalry,
right.
you know?
Yeah,
So it shows that this principle is from beyond the things themselves. And if that's the case, if it's from beyond, from an absolute will, a divine will, that shows that the purpose or intent of it is not really just the worldly aspect of things, but really more importantly, the hereafter. So, but
yeah, mashallah. It's amazing the principle that we use every day in terms.
yeah, yeah, I mean, it's a mystery. I mean, that's why he says mystery because it doesn't materially even actually make sense. You can't, there's nothing you can say like as an engineer or a scientist, there's no equation you can write that doesn't, there's no way you can justify it,
Right,
you know? Um, so, why are things in mutual cooperation working together? Why does that yield more benefit than an individual? It doesn't, there's no math behind it, you know? So,
correct.
but yeah.
Let's read what the second obstacle destroying sincerity. So this is to flatter the ego and give high status to the evil commanding soul by attracting attention to oneself and public acclaim, driven by the desire for fame, renown, and position. This is a serious spiritual sickness that also opens the door to the hypocrisy and self-centeredness called the hidden association of partners with God. Whoa, so it goes into the association of partners with God and damages sincerity. Because taking over agency and for their own, like all the attention goes to them versus who they own, you know, that's a problem. It's a spiritual sickness that also opens the door to the hypocrisy and self-centeredness called the hidden association of partners with God and damages sincerity. My brothers, our way in the service of the Quran is reality and brotherhood. And the true meaning of brotherhood is to annihilate one's personality among one's brothers and to prefer their souls to one's own. So he has a footnote. Yes, happy is he who, in order to gain access to a large pool of fresh water filtered from the spring of the Quran, casts his personality and egotism, which are like blocks of ice, into the pool and melts them. Yeah, so comparing basically the worldly life to the life of the hereafter pool of fresh water. Rivalry, the rivalry of this sort arising from desire for rank and position should not therefore be provoked. It is altogether opposed to our way. The brother's honor may be all the brother's honor may be all the individuals generally. So I'm hopeful that sacrificing that great collective honor for personal, selfish, competitive, minor fame and renown is far from being something the Risale-i Nur students would do. Yes, the heart, mind, and spirit of the Risale-i Nur students would not stoop to such lowly, harmful, inferior things, but everyone has an evil, commanding soul. Everyone has an evil, commanding soul, and sometimes the soul's emotions affect certain veins of character and predominate to an extent, in spite of the heart, mind, and spirit. I'm not accusing your hearts, minds, and spirits. I have confidence in you because of the effect of the Risale-i Nur. But the soul desires, emotions, and imagination sometimes deceive. But the soul desires, emotion, imagination sometimes deceive, right? Because we don't know if your conscience and consciousness knows that this is just an imagination or this emotion is negative in a way that it's a temporary kind of satisfaction, immediate satisfaction. So they can deceive that. For this reason, you sometimes receive certain severe warnings. You sometimes receive severe warnings. The severity looks to the soul, emotions, desires, and imagination. Act cautiously. Yes, if our way had been subjection to a sheikh, there would have been a single rank or limited ranks, and numerous capacities would have been appointed to them. There could have been envy and selfishness. But our way is brotherhood. Among brothers, there is no position of father among them, nor can they assume the position of spiritual guide. In brotherhood, ranks are broad and cannot be the cause of envious jostling. At the most, brother helps and supports brothers. The brother helps and supports brother. He completes his service, evidence that much harm and many mistakes have resulted from the envy, greed for spiritual reward, and high aspirations of the paths of spiritual guides are the conflict and rivalry among those who follow them, despite their vast attainments, perfections, and benefits, which have had the disastrous consequence of their vast and sacred power being unable to withstand the gales of innovation. Yeah, so another basically obstacle is looking for a rank or position which is still worldly, temporary while we're here. So that kind of harms the sincerity as well, right? So there's no like superiority or inferiority in brotherhood. Everyone is serving, for the hereafter in a way. So I think this first paragraph kind of summarizes a lot of this. The not being carried away by the, self-centeredness, right? Which really, so this is interesting. He mentioned that this is really the association with of partners with God. I was thinking how that self-centeredness, basically you kind of claim to be God in a way, or having some agency in this sense. That I own this, I have this, or I can do this. Right. So the ego kind of carries away and then commits a lot of crimes or sins in that sense. So annihilate one's personality among one's brother to prefer their souls to one's own, to avoid any rivalry. Right. And then here he kind of makes mention that really there's no need to look for a sheikh in a way. Right? You can have brothers sharing their thoughts, reflections, but if there's a rank that that is gained, then that is a problem in a way. What do you think? Any comments on this?
Yeah, I agree with him. He says, I like this last paragraph. With by definition, when you have a sheikh, like the Sufi order, the Sufi way, by definition, there's rank, and then there's by definition limited ranks. Um, so um, that is a source of envy and selfishness. Like who is closer to the sheikh status, But he contrasts it with the way of brotherhood, which to me is Quranic, actually. Um, the Quran doesn't really talk about sheikh. There's not even a word, I think, even the word sheikh in the Quran, you know? So, um, it just really says in the Quran, like those who know, ask those who know, or those who have authority in terms of knowledge, they know. But it does not give rank or order. Um, he says brotherhood ranks are broad and cannot be the cause of envious jostling. Um, at most, brother helps and supports brother. He completes his service. So everybody has a role in the way of brotherhood. Um, so yeah, I mean and he says you can see that amongst the people um, of the spiritual guides is that they have been unable to withstand gales of innovation, meaning this onset swell of misguidance, unable to withstand it, despite um, you know, um, their attainment, perfection, benefits, um, unable to withstand innovation because it wasn't about brotherhood. So, because there's not a power in that compared to brotherhood, they're unable to withstand it. So, he's looking from the perspective of, this onslaught of misguidance on people.
Right.
So, you know, and he's looking at the bigger picture, the greater harm.
This is a big deal, right, in certain Sufi orders, basically.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, the sheikh, yeah. The sheikh and the murid, yeah. Um, so which is problematic. Um, you know, like the murid and the murshid are the sheikh. So or it's
right.
problematic because it's essentially there's no bro it's not brotherhood, which is to me Quranic, but it's just about hierarchy. So, you know, so the sheikh almost is not in need of help, which doesn't even make sense.
Right.
You know, when you actually think about it, it's problematic from
Yeah.
an ego perspective. So, um, like the sheikh cannot learn, he cannot be helped. He's not in need of anyone or cooperation. Like, in what world does that even work? You know, you don't even see that out in the world, you know?
Yeah, it's a tough position to be in.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. But I
Interesting.
mean, it's egocentric in some way.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
and then the murid might actually want to attain to be the murshid or the sheikh, you know?
right.
So,
After death, basically, then you get the murid becomes the
yeah, exactly. So, what brotherhood is there, you know?
the whole concept. Yeah, I don't know how they do it.
So I'm not saying people do, but it's almost like, oh, you want somebody to die so you can become the master.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of, yeah, that's very prevalent in many areas here.
Yeah. So it's problematic. And then even leaving aside that, it also doesn't cultivate an individual's ability, his confidence, ability to reason, to think, to understand,
Yeah.
you know? He just becomes dependent on the sheikh,
Right.
you know? Not dependent upon the creator, but dependent upon the sheikh,
Right.
you know? Yeah, it's a definitely I agree with Mercy here. So
In a kind way, kind of, he is making the case. Hey, look, because I think at that time maybe there was a lot of
yeah, Sufism. So I mean, this is yeah, and he's writing this. I don't know exactly when he wrote
Turkey. There
this,
was from, yeah,
yeah, but during the Ottoman period, Sufism. I think he even said somewhere like he was part of a Sufi order at some point.
at some point, yeah,
Yeah, like in his early years when he was studying. So, but I mean, obviously, seeing what he saw, like the rise of atheism, materialism, collapse of Ottoman Empire, and this
yeah,
onslaught of innovation, that is like this doesn't actually work. So I agree with him. It doesn't work. So not in this age. Maybe at one point it did, but not anymore. So but,
yeah.
yeah.
Right. Let's wrap it up with the third obstacle. This is fear and greed. This obstacle has been explained comprehensively in the six attacks, together with other obstacles. So the six attacks basically is in the letters, the sixth section of the 29th letter. Basically about fear and greed, right? So, which is like used in many cases in the worldly matters. They use fear and greed to entice in the evil commanding soul to leave sincerity in a way, right? So we therefore refer you to that and making all the most beautiful names of the most merciful of the merciful our intercessor. We beseech that he will grant us success in attaining complete sincerity. So, O God, for the sake of Surah Al-Ikhlas, place us among your servants who attain sincerity. Ameen, Ameen. Glory be unto you. We have no knowledge save that which you have taught us. Indeed, you are all knowing, all wise. Quran section 2, verse 32. So he concludes with these two, like what the section of how powerful section Ikhlas to realize what, the truth and the reality. Qul
Yeah,
huwa
it's
Allahu
interesting he
ahad.
says Surah Class because Surah Class is all about divinity, absoluteness,
Right,
Tawheed. So it's about not about the self, but about unity. So he's saying let's in some ways reflect unity within ourselves, you know, like
right,
mutual cooperation.
right.
You know.
So basically, get away from this idea of having, yeah, self-centeredness or being in a position of a leader or something.
Correct, correct, yeah. Um, the thing, the section ends with the 20, this confidential letter. Do you want to read that? That's the last page.
Okay, so there is a lot. Let's do that. Okay, sure, yeah, Bismillah. Confidential letter to some of my brothers. I shall mention a point concerning two hadiths to my brothers who become bored of writing and prefer other recitations during the 3 months, the months of worship, to writing out the risale-i Nur. Although to do this is worship in five respects, the two hadiths are these. This is funny, actually. We ask for an explanation of the five sources of worship which our master indicates in this valuable letter. The explanation received is below. To strive against the people of misguidance, the most important struggle. To serve our master in the form of helping him spread the truth. To serve Muslims in respect of belief. To obtain knowledge by means of the pen. To perform worship in the form of reflective thought, 1 hour of which may sometimes be equal to a year's worship. So this is strange that he's mentioning about, okay, so to serve our master in a way, in the form of helping him spread the, so this is different from being a sheikh, I would assume, right? The whole concept of being a sheikh versus like the teacher or the master, basically respect for the teacher from whom we are learning. So he has the first hadith is at the last judgment, the ink spent by the scholars of religion will weigh equally to the blood of the martyrs. Right, this is even Al-Ghazali mentions in Ulum ad-Din, Ihya Ulum ad-Din, right? Munawi. So there's a few references. Interesting. At the last judgment, the ink spent by the scholars of religion will weigh equally to the blood of the martyrs. The second is whoever adheres to my sunnah when my community is corrupted shall earn the reward of 100 martyrs. This also has certain references. That is, those who adhere to and serve the prophets upon whom be blessings and peace practices and the Quran's truths, when innovations and misguidance are rife, may gain the reward of 100 martyrs. O my brothers who vary of writing out of laziness, and O my brothers who lean to Sufism, these two hadiths show that the black light flowing from your blessed pure pen, serving the truths of belief and mysteries of the Sharia and practices of the Prophet, upon whom be blessings and peace at a time such as this, even a drop of their water of life like ink may win for you on the day of judgment reward equal to 100 drops of martyr's blood. So try to win it. If you say scholars in the Hadith and some of us are only scribes, the answer, anyone who reads these treatises for a year and comprehends and accepts them may become a valuable exacting scholar at this time, even if he does not understand them, since the Risale-i Nur students have a collective personality. Doubtless it is learned. As for your pens, they are the immaterial fingers of that collective personality. With your good opinion of me, you have afforded me the position of master, ustad, and religious scholar, and attach yourselves to me. Although in my view I am unworthy. I am unlettered and have difficulty in writing, so your pens may be thought of as mine. You will receive the reward indicated in the hadith. And this is signed Said Nursi in this letter, which he sent to some of his brothers who basically noticing that at his time when the books were handwritten, right? So there were a lot of scribes who were writing his works. It's easier, let's say, like, I'm getting bored by writing, so let me go and listen to something and do some, listen to some recitations in a way, or I mean, this happens, right? And he says this is out of laziness, right? So, and he uses this two hadith narrations, which he rarely does, basically, in many of his works, but here he does use the reference of two hadith narrations and giving the importance of the work that they're doing as, in terms of sincerely trying to serve the religion. So he says the ink spent by the scholars of religion will weigh equally, because martyrs is the one who witnesses the reality of this world, is one of the highest ranks, basically. So they say even the ink spent by the scholars on this purpose is equal, basically, equally weigh. And also another hadith, he comes also with the whoever adheres to following the prophetic practice or sunnah when everything is corrupted will achieve 100, like a reward of 100 martyrs. So which is very significant because the challenge and the conditions have changed, and whoever adheres to the reality, like recognizing the principles of sincerity, for example, is not for the worldly life, but for the hereafter. So that brings them the blessings in it, basically, in a way. Is there any final conclusions on this?
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, as you said, like people were writing his works back then. But it's easy to get bored. You think this doesn't have any benefit because his work was about the collective benefit. Like as you said, even though he calls himself, he's not a sheikh. He calls himself the master. In other words, I think they used to call him Ustad, like the one who knows or is aware of the most. Not necessarily better than them, but who is aware the most.
Yeah,
Is trying to help spread the truth, to help Muslims in respect to belief. Um, and um, so in this regard, like his work is a sort of a reflection of this collective effort. And he recognized that because he himself can't do it. So it was spread by the pen of everyone, So they all took part in it. Um, so all my brothers who worry of writing out of laziness, and all my brothers who lean to Sufism, it's interesting because
that's a pretty tough thing, right? I mean,
yeah,
like
so
but he said it's a confidential letter to some,
to
right?
some of my brothers, yeah, yeah.
Maybe
Uh,
they can take it, basically. That's the point.
yeah, yeah. But it's interesting because I think like just a point for us is that we may think individual worship is better, you
Yeah,
know, but in this age, he even says, you know, one from a reflective, our reflective thought
right.
is sometimes equal to a year's worship. Because if that can be shared with others, the impact is far greater than me doing my individual worship for a year. I think that's what he's trying to say.
Got it.
You know?
Yeah,
So, especially in this age when whoever adheres to my sunnah when my community is corrupted shall earn the reward of 100 martyrs.
right,
Because martyrs is essentially protecting the religion,
right.
you know? So the one who
That's a
helps
good point. Yeah.
protect the religion is equal to a reward of 100 martyrs.
Mm,
Because 100 martyrs may protect the lives of tens of thousands of people, you know? So, um, same thing with scholarship, with the pen.
I see. Yeah. So that can protect the lives of many people, really.
Yes, even though you think you're one person, but it may protect the lives of, where individual worship is, in some sense, for yourself, you know?
Right. SubhanAllah.
Yeah.
MashaAllah.
Uh,
This is interesting.
yeah. So try to win it. Um,
We need to be wary of laziness or just, I got bored, so let me go and explore this thing or some that thing.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah.
So that could be dangerous. Yeah.
It's dangerous because then you become part of your own self,
Yeah.
right? Like your own self. Um,
It's good for us actually to understand. Yeah. Writing out of laziness and my brothers who lean to Sufism, these studies show that the black light flowing from your blessed, pure pens, serving the truth of belief in mystery of the Sharia and practice of the Prophet at time, such as this, peace be upon you, peace, even a drop of their water of life, like it may win for you on the day of judgment. So we don't know actually, that's the thing, right? If whatever we're doing,
yeah, and then
that that could be the means basically for the day of judgment equal to, yeah.
yeah, and
It's,
he says anyone who reads these treatises for a year and comprehends and accepts them may become a valuable exacting scholar at this time.
that's very
It-
powerful.
because everybody can because he it's for everyone.
Yeah.
It's not he's not a sheikh saying you have to listen to me, you know.
Yeah.
Anybody can understand the principles of what he's writing and take it for themselves, you know. Even if he does not understand them, since the reciting or students have a collective personality, doubtless it is learned. Meaning, um, even if somebody doesn't understand them, just being around individuals, they sort of maybe understand it through the personality of the individual, collective personality of the students,
Hmm.
what these principles are in action. So,
Do they understand through the personality of the students?
collective personality, yeah. Like, what is the impact of these teachings on their lives? You know, even if you don't understand it, what he's saying precisely, you see the impact
I
potentially.
see, I see, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, you see mutual cooperation, you see brotherhood, you see contentment or patience or, you know,
Hmm.
acceptance of divine will and things like that. So,
Mm.
yeah,
All right, beautiful. Inshallah, we can stop here for today.
yeah. All right.
Sure.
So we'll pick up next time.
Yeah, Bismillah, subhanaka, la ilma lana illa ma alamtana, innaka anta al-alimul hakim. Wa akhiru da'wana, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. بحرمة سورة الفاتحة. Right.